Welcome to a discussion on creating efficiencies and reducing risk by leveraging remote startup techniques during construction. I'm Derek Schell, Brown and Caldwell's National Automation Leader, and I'm here today with Klint Fletcher, Automation Lead, and Patrick Goodfellow, Project Manager. Startups are often a challenging time for many utilities. Owners are looking to understand how to not only deliver a successful project, but also ensure they manage quality and maintain ongoing operations of the process. Patrick, can you detail some of the startup challenges utilities are facing and how we can best support these challenges?
Thanks, Derek. There are a number of challenges associated with startup and commissioning activities, from maintaining safety, the process, and coordination with the entire construction team. As you're typically working with an active process where an upset could lead to permit violation or other health risks. Adding COVID precautions to these existing challenges of startup further complicates the process, from increased PPE requirements to travel restrictions for vendors and even reduced staffing availability. Remote startup is a solution to address these additional challenges brought on by COVID, but also can provide real value in a traditional startup environment. Remote startup is a great option, but the engineer needs to have a trusted relationship with the owner and buy-in from the entire team. A secure remote startup allows for reduced on-site presence and increases the efficiency of all those involved, while allowing for increased participation from additional staff. And now I'm going to turn it over to Klint to give us a real-world example of where we did just this.
Thanks, Patrick. At Greenfield Water Reclamation Plant, or GWRP, in the southwest of Arizona, located in the town of Gilbert, but jointly owned by and operated by the city of Mesa, we recently underwent a plant expansion where we doubled its capacity. BC acted as part of the engineer and design team and programming team. GWRP started as what we would consider a traditional startup, where staff was limited to participation by the fact of being on site. In other words, everyone that was needed on site was required to be part of the startup. Where on-call support and vendor support was a little bit more difficult in the sense that they had to travel to be on site. And lastly, the associated cost with all those items is typically increased. When COVID hit, we had to adjust and adapt. So we adjusted with the owner to do a remote startup. With this remote startup, we were able to accomplish a lot of really cool things, including targeted participation. So we were able to involve people that typically weren't able to be involved in prior, maybe a subject matter expert or a design engineer for a specific process area. With that, because we were remote and virtual, we required less boots on the ground, less people actually on site being exposed, and we're able to follow those safety procedures and policies set and forth because of COVID. On-call support, additionally, was improved. Instead of a flight, instead of a travel time, we're able to walk to a computer, log on remotely, and support as needed. Lastly, our costs went way down. Now, I want to reiterate the importance of the owner buy-in. Without the owner, in this particular scenario, this could have not been accomplished. BC was able to provide a few things in terms of technical know-how, but other than those few things, the owner was the real major player in providing us with a secure network connection to be able to remote in and help them during this expansion. A great example I would love to share with you is during the startup in the digester heating loop in the digester complex. Now, we had a virtual startup, and during that virtual startup, we ran into some issues with the three-way valve in the heating loop. We couldn't figure out what the issue was. So because we were in a virtual environment, we're able to call the design engineer for that specific process area. That design engineer was able to identify the condition and realize that it was abnormal and it needed to be inspected and fixed. The boots on the ground were able to address the issue while the programming team continued on and tested the rest of the process area. When that three-way valve was being worked on and finished inspected, we were able to retest and finish our process testing for that day without delay. Without this remote startup and virtual startup that we were able to accomplish, this wouldn't have been an issue. There wouldn't have been a possibility. Derek?
Thank you, Clint. Startups sure are a challenging time for many utilities. I feel in this case, the owner said it best, where remote startup allowed the team to really increase the safety and communication between the teams using this approach. Leveraging remote startup really has allowed teams to develop a strong relationship between each of the different operations, IT, and engineering expertise and knowledge. It also allows us to reduce the number of personnel required to be on site and improve the overall coordination and communication between the team. Thank you again for joining us today, and please reach out to us if you'd like to discuss this further.